This is an RDL, but this is an SLDL.
Did you see the difference?
Most people think it's how much your knees bend, but that isn't it. It's subtle but makes these two similar movements completely different. See how the RDL goes down then up, and the SLDL goes up then down? That's difference number one. Depending on your goals, you should be doing either RDLs or SLDLs. If you want to do the correct one, you need to understand difference one, plus two more important changes. In this video, you'll learn what all three differences mean and therefore which movement you should be doing. RDLs and SLDLs both primarily work your glutes, hamstrings, and back. One is better for muscle growth, the other is better for strength, and you'll find out why in just a moment. RDL stands for Romanian Deadlift, and they're called this because they were first used by a Romanian Olympic athlete. SLDL stands for Stiff Leg Deadlift, and is called this because it's a deadlift with stiff rather than moving legs. Very similar looking, but with totally different outcomes. In my experience, RDLs are more common and more popular. So let's start with those. The correct form for an RDL is explicitly linked to their benefit, and this dictates whether you should be doing these or SLDLs. I did a dive into the number one RDL mistake, and I'll link that in the comments for you to watch after this video. But let's break down the form. RDLs start at the top of the movement, so standing with a bar. The key element is the hip hinge, which means tilting your pelvis relative to your legs. Can you see how your legs are very still whilst your torso is hinged over from your hips? Notice that your back itself doesn't move at all. It's held completely still. It gets hinged over, but only because your pelvis has moved. At the bottom of your hinge, you should feel tension on your hamstrings, almost like a stretch sensation. If you struggle to hinge, a great way to learn is with a piece of plastic pipe or even a broom handle. Hold it against your back and practice hinging. Thinking hips back can be a good way to initiate this movement, but pelvis hinging is what I want you to focus on. Over-focusing on hips back is the number one RDL mistake. Once you're hinged over, we stand back up to the top. This again happens because your pelvis is hinging underneath you. For bar positioning, you want to keep the bar close to your legs at all times, ideally touching. Why is this important? Having the bar against you keeps the weight closer to your center of gravity. This means that proportionately, your back does less and your hamstrings and glutes do more. This is a good thing because it means that you can lift more weight. Whilst your back is working to hold your upper body still, RDLs are primarily for your hamstrings and glutes. More weight means more hamstring and glute development. And all these factors also tell us which benefit RDLs are best for. Because the bar never touches the floor, the weight is always held by your hamstrings and glutes. This constant tension is excellent for growing your muscles. So if your main objective is size at the back of your legs, RDLs are perfect for this. But what if you want to get stronger? Let's dissect SLDLs. The big difference between an RDL and an SLDL is that the SLDL starts at the floor, stands up, then returns to the floor. See how this is opposite to the RDL, where we start at the top, lower, and return to the top. We'll come to why that's so important in just a moment. Just like the RDL, we want the bar right against your legs at all times. This means that when you step up to the bar for an SLDL, you need to get your feet underneath so that the bar is already against your shins. From here, you hinge over to take a hold of the bar with roughly shoulder width hands. This means that your arms are vertical rather than angled outwards. Can you see why this is? If my hands are wide, I have to reach further down. This makes the movement harder, but not in the way we want. Before we lift, the most important thing is the stiff-legged element. You don't want your knees locked, but you want them as straight as possible before that point. The reason for this is to get maximum bias onto the hamstrings and glutes. This looks very similar to the RDL bottom position, but with the bar on the floor. You will probably again feel the tension, almost like a stretch in your hamstrings. Once you're set, brace your core and lift to fully upright. From the top, return to the floor, mirroring your form with knees soft but not bent. Just like in the RDL, can you see that your back is locked into place and is moved by your pelvis? The hinge is equally as important on both movements. I introduced SLDLs as being for strength, but why is that? Because you move the bar from a complete standstill, your hamstrings and glutes don't get to use any of their elasticity. All muscles have a bit of a bounce to them, meaning they want to return the way they came. RDLs have this bounce. Stiff-legged deadlifts don't, so the hams and glutes have to pull harder. Harder pulling means better for strength. To make sure you fully see the differences between RDLs and SLDLs, let's do a back-to-back comparison. Both movements are ruled by a hinge at the hips. Your upper body stays locked still and is moved by your pelvis tilting. In SLDLs and RDLs, you should feel some tension, almost like a stretch, in your hamstrings. You want hands at shoulder width and feet placed to allow vertical legs. Make sense? Good. Okay, now the differences which all link together. Difference 1 is our start and finish. Remember how RDLs go from the top, downwards, and then back up to the starting position? SLDLs are the opposite, starting at the floor, lifting, then returning to the floor. This brings us straight to difference 2, muscle elasticity. RDLs actively use elasticity. As you hinge over under load, the hamstrings and glutes are primed to pull you back up, which they do. SLDLs start with no bounce. You set up, lock into place, and then pull from a complete stop. Every rep repeats this, halting at the floor, then lifting again. And now we're on to difference 3, which you will notice is caused by 1 and 2. RDLs keep tension on your hamstrings and glutes for an extended duration. The constant tension is excellent for muscle growth. Using the stretch reflex of your muscles also makes higher reps more achievable, which doubles down on muscle growth. SLDLs don't have active load when the bar is on the floor, giving your muscles a very brief rest. This brief rest and lack of bounce makes SLDLs excellent for building raw strength, preferably for lower reps. You now know the difference between RDLs and SLDLs. They're two similar movements, but with 3 big differences that affect which one you should choose. If you want to grow your hamstrings and glutes, use RDLs. You will still get stronger too, but mainly grow. If you want to improve your strength, SLDLs are better for you. You'll get some muscle development too, but mainly strong at lifting things off the floor. If you still feel confused, drop your question below and I will reply. If you feel like you understand RDLs and SLDLs better, subscribe so that you don't miss my next video. Thanks.